Hey everybody, so today we have a Maytag Centennial dryer, which is kind of like a commercial version. If I put it onto a time dry and hit start, it's loud, it makes a lot of rattling from behind. It does heat okay, and all the rollers and everything sound like they're okay. I'm still going to open it up and clean it all out, but I'll let you hear it. Okay, so to get into the front of the machine, which is not where the heater is or anything. The heater and all that stuff is in the back. I'm going to take out this lint filter. It doesn't look like that's been cleaned in a couple loads. Wow, there's a lot of stuff in there. Seems a lot of hair, so probably a dog or cat or something. So to pop up this top, there's 2 screws right here. And then there's clips just under this lid. But basically you just got to push it in on these clips and it'll release. So undo these 2 screws. And then this whole top will come up. Make sure at this point you've unplugged the dryer. We don't want to be opening it with the dryer still plugged in. Now, these tops, every one of them seems to be different, but this wire loom here is going to determine how far back it can go. So if it can rest somewhere up against the wall instead of leaning it right back, that would be better. So, wow, that is a lot of hair. Yeah, it's probably going to get uglier the further down we go. Okay, so there's a little wire connector here. So how I usually do it is I just stick a pick under there. You got to watch you don't end up picking your finger, but that's about as easy as it possibly gets. It can be a pain if you are using different kind of tools, but I've always found that these little picks work so good. Of course, I have stabbed my finger a couple times, but so then we just got a couple screws in behind this panel. They're 5/16. We'll undo those and this whole front panel will come off. Okay, so this side's a little different. It's got a clip on the outside because it's got this bracket. So you can undo the bracket from here. How I usually do it is just pry this clip back. It's a little speed clip, but it just pushes on. So if you pry it back, it'll knock that clip off, but that's what that clip looks like. So you can pull back that. Pushing this back is all right. It can be bent back. So we still have that little clip on there. So we'll get the pick out. Try not to stab my finger. And we can pull this roller off. So yeah, this big ball of hair like that's going to slow down these rollers huge. It'll also add a lot of heat because it's spinning, and hair is actually very strong. So the hair can chew right through one of these shafts if you leave it on there long enough. I've seen that many times. So just picking this stuff off, I just want to just rip it, use a knife or a pick or something just to kind of cut the hair, because it's so tough to get off there unless you do something like that. So we'll take that vacuum again. All right, that's enough of that. Okay, so just up the shaft. I don't know if you can see this or not, but you can see there's a kind of a dark spot. You'll see when you take yours off, if it's kind of wearing uneven. That's why I use the 600 grit sandpaper. It just takes kind of a bit of that high spot off, which can be slowing down the roller as well. You don't want to take off too much. These are designed to be a specific size. So just clean that roller. I found this is kind of the easiest way to clean these. Just shove that rag through there and spin it. It gets off a lot of the stuff that's sitting in there. So let's see how this one goes. Oh, it's so much better. So we can put this little triangle clip back on. When you're putting it on, just work it around. It should go on fairly easily. So we'll bend this back. Might have to pick up a little bit on this shaft because this actually supports a bit of this back assembly. Putting this back on, you can use a socket, you can use kind of whatever you want, but I found for the most part, it just slides back on. And I'll give it a little bit of a tap just to bend in the tabs a little bit, just to hold that in place. So yeah, it spins nice. Okay, so we got the drum back in. If you've ever had to put one of these belts on, you've probably sworn a lot because that idler falls out like that. So it just sits in two little grooves on the base. And it'll fly off on you. So what I usually do is just hold it with one hand and with the other. So the belt has to go through this idler in a loop and then hook around the belt. Hopefully you got that. I know it's a little dark in there, but so that's how you put that belt back on. Now you can put the front panel back on. Okay, so when you're putting back on that front panel, actually, before I get too far, after you put a belt back onto a dryer, you want to try to spin it, because a lot of the time, if it's not sitting right in the right spot on the drum, it will jump off the idler. These are such a pain in the butt. So yeah, you can tell that's not turning worth a dang. So yeah, it came off. So yeah, before you even get up, I would let it spin a little bit. Oh, it keeps jumping off. Okay, looks like that's going to stay on there. So putting it back on, I'm going to put one side in at a time. Show you the side here. So you put that side in, lift up on the drum a little bit, and then we can try to hook this other side in. Make sure the drum is actually sitting on top of this front felt. And then we can put those two 5/16 bolts back in. Okay, now don't forget to reconnect your wire. Make sure it's nice and tight and tucked in there where it's supposed to be. Okay, when you go to put these screws back in, more than likely this will not line up. And what you don't want to do is drop a screw down here. So hold on to it and get that hole lined up with. If you have to, you can take a pick and put it into one of the holes and move it around a little bit so the other one will line up. Don't drop it here like I did. At least I didn't drop it down there. We're going back there anyway, so we could have gotten it, but we don't want to do that. Okay, so there's a bunch of bolts around the perimeter of this back panel. They're all just 1/4 inch. So I'll take those off real quick. You gotta move this cord out of the way. You lean this panel back and then just lift up a little bit. And it's, surprise, surprise, a little fuzzy in there. Okay, so the back is where most of the rattling was coming from. So I've been trying to move stuff around and just see if we got some loose screws or something that can cause that issue. But like I said, these things are so tinny, it's so hard to tell if something is actually loose or that's the way it's designed. You can just try to shake around things and just see. Sometimes there'll be something caught in this blower here. So we'll take this assembly off and just make sure that nothing's caught in there. Usually it's a certain kind of sound and it wasn't making that sound. But when I do clean outside, I like to take this off anyway, just because it's a place where a lot of things get caught. There'll probably still be a bunch of stuff in there, but it just wasn't affecting the actual machine. So what we're going to have to do is take off these screws, but we'll also have to take off those 2 screws up front that I put back for the lens screen on the top there. We'll have to take those off and should be able to pull this back. Sometimes this can be a bit of a pain because it's not, well, it's designed to come out, but it's not designed easily to come out. So basically you got to get it up over this lip on the back here, but the front curves up like that. So you got to pull out on the bottom here. Okay. And then it'll slowly come down. Usually what you have to do is kind of lean the dryer forward a little bit just to get it to come out the rest of the way. Just like that. So part of the reason why I pulled this off is, can you see all this stuff that's in there? That's where the vent part of the machine is. So if you look at this piece right here, this is where the air is pushed, drawn through the dryer and then out through this blower, and the blower pushes it out into the wall. Well, I don't know if I've ever seen one quite that bad, but that's got a lot of hair on it. That's blocking at least half of the airflow of this machine. So it will dry. It's just going to dry a heck of a lot slower. So this definitely needs to be cleaned up. I'm glad I took this off. There doesn't really seem to be much in here except for a couple screws and a couple little ball bearings that aren't off this machine. So they must have came out of somebody's pocket. But yeah, we'll clean up all that and then we'll get back at it. Okay, so just the sheer amount of crap that I dug out of there was unbelievable. So everything's all clear, nice and clean now. Let's tilt this back up. Put that front part back in. This is the only part that's a pain. It's just, they make it just a hair too big to just go in nicely. But you want that front to kind of go up to where it's supposed to be sitting also. There we go. I like to stick the top screws back in first, because these are the ones that will kind of line up everything else. These have to be in an exact spot, so once you get these in, you're good with everything else. Once again, don't drop any screws down here. After I put those screws back in, I usually put the lint filter back in, just so nothing can drop in there. It's just happened a couple times, and I don't want it to happen again. Okay, so put the rest of these 1/4-inch screws back in. Everything should line up fairly nicely. The reason why this machine's wobbling so much is it came in missing one of its legs. So I got to get one of those for sure. But I think everything else on this thing is going to be good. It heats great. Now it will actually be able to get rid of the heat good as well. And with those rollers being the shafts cleaned off like they are now, those things will spin like a dream. Okay, so putting the back panel on, exact reverse of how we took it off. It can be a bit of a pain. Okay, so there's little tabs at the back that have to sit in a certain spot. You also have to line up the vent piece. It's kind of a bit of a juggling sort of game. Usually you got to tilt it back quite a ways to get that piece to sit into the back panel like it should. And then because everything is so flimsy also, it never seems like anything goes back quite right. But your holes are all lined up and we're good. So we can put all those screws back in and yeah, give it a test swirl. Don't strip all your screws out because that's no good. Then you will get vibrations. So everything is tight. Hopefully nothing actually vibrates. And we'll just spin it around and plug it in. Okay, so we've got it back spun around. I've got it plugged in, cleaned off that lint filter. And what I usually like to do is just put it to time dry anywhere. It doesn't really matter because time dry uses high heat no matter what. So that's what I want. I want to also test the heat after we've torn apart everything. And because all that dust has been stirred up, putting it on high heat will burn up any of the stuff that went in there. So we'll just hit the... Oh, that sounds way better. Yeah, that's good. I'll just make sure it heats like it should. And I have to put a leg on it, clean it up, and this guy's ready to go. So after you do this, you'll smell all that dust burning off. It's not going to cause fires or anything like that. It's just burning off dust is all that's been kicked up and thrown in there. So don't worry if it stinks a little bit when you first run it. It should smell like that. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody. And if you have a Maytag machine, hopefully this helped you be able to rip it apart, diagnose the problem, and get your machine running. See you in the next one.